Very similarly to Trump getting elected president, the Nashville shooting that just happened definitely broke a lot of leftist brains, especially you could tell by the news outlets and the left-wingers on Twitter that were going after news outlets like the Daily Wire and blaming it on them, blaming the shooting on the Daily Wire simply because they also reside in Tennessee, because they operate out of Tennessee. Somehow they are also to blame for the shooting that happened. And Vaush, Hassan, a lot of the other leftist streamers and leftist social media personalities have been having meltdowns about stuff that people like Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro have been saying. Let's check out this video from Vaush talking about something that Matt Walsh has said and also giving us reasoning why this isn't actually the left wing's fault, why this isn't a hate crime, you know, for the people that we think it is, the trans people. We saw all those posters with the Trans Day of Vengeance on them and stuff like that. We know that this was somewhat of a hate crime. We don't know exactly how targeted it was towards specific people, or maybe just the specific school, or maybe not targeted at all. Hopefully we get to see that manifesto that the police are claiming is real, but I don't know if we ever will. Let's check out what Vaush had to say in his meltdown about what Matt Walsh tweeted and others have tweeted as well.
Enormously disproportionate representation from the far right, then jihadists, who are again far right. It's basically the same ideology at political killings done by members of an extremist political group. We see an enormously disproportionate representation from the far right, then jihadists, who are again far right.
Hold on. Am I crazy, or is he just totally not reading what this article is about here? Number of people killed in deadly attacks in the post 9/11 era by ideology. Number of people killed, not number of people doing the killing, doing the crimes. Number of people killed. Far right wing is 122. Far left wing is 1. And look, I'm sure that you could find these types of numbers going the complete opposite way as well. I was about to say that I'm sure that this is from some kind of left-wing website that's trying to frame the far right in some sort of way, but it looks like he's just totally misreading what this is. Unless I'm crazy, unless I'm stupid, let me know in the comments. But it seems like what this is saying here, this chart is saying that 122 far right-wing people have died in deadly attacks in the post 9/11 era, and only 1 far left-wing member has died in deadly attacks. So I don't know. Maybe I'm completely reading this wrong, but I think that if this was saying that there was 122 people who have committed deadly acts in the far right wing, and that only 1 in the far left wing, I'm sure that if that's what it's saying, you could probably find a chart saying the complete opposite. And even if it is saying exactly what this is saying up here, you could probably find one where it also says the complete opposite of that. But let's continue on.
It's basically the same ideology, except with Islam instead of Christianity. And then you have the incel ideology, then you have black separatists, and then you have the far left wing, down there, radically underperforming, as trans people do in their mass shooting graph. I hope the average American is capable of understanding that this delusional, hysterical redirection of anger towards trans people based on a single data point from an otherwise massively disproportionately small representation in school shootings or mass shootings. I hope the average American looks at this and goes, wow, the far right sure is absolutely hysterical. They are insane. They are obsessive. They will take any excuse they can. You know, a transgender person gets into a car accident. Transgender ideology creating the most dangerous roadways America's ever seen. Transgender person throws a fit at a restaurant because they got the wrong order. You know, transgender people are ruined.
It's so crazy how this is coming from Vaush and other people on the left wing who, no matter who dies to a police officer, anything like that, there's a million different examples that I could think of, but it's always racially motivated. It's always a hate crime every single time. It's so rich coming from his side of things, but, you know.
Dying. They'll do this for anyone. They'll do this for everyone. It's not going to stop. As long as we exist in a country where 1/2 of our political body is intent on the complete eradication of a social group, they will take any excuse and opportunity they can to bring that about. And again, not to lay it on too thick with the historical parallels, but yeah, this is exactly what the Nazis did. It's never
every single time they talk about any topic at all, it always comes back to the Nazis, man. You could ask them what's their favorite thing to eat from McDonald's. They'd be like, oh, mine's a Big Mac, personally. What's yours, Vaush? Oh, you know, actually, back in the time of Nazi Germany, Hitler actually loved Big Macs. So I think that you're pretty bigoted for actually having that opinion, and you should probably change that. Like, dude, no matter what it is, no matter what the topic is, Vaush, Hassan, all those really far leftist to socialists out there, they will always bring Nazis or Hitler into every single thing that they talk about. It's insane because it's such an easy dunk for them and their audience. They love it. You compare anyone to a Nazi, you compare anyone to Hitler, you automatically win the debate in their eyes, in their audience's eyes. It's just so easy, man. Matt Walsh, no, you don't have to dispute any of the claims that he's making. You don't have to logically pick apart his argument. Just call him Hitler. It's just that easy.
enough just to create the propaganda, to tell the story. You have to elevate.
When Gina Carano does it, she gets fired from Star Wars. But when they do it, it's applauded.
And you have to overreport on every excuse you're given to denounce a group. It doesn't matter what their proportional representation is. It doesn't matter whether it was likely to happen. It doesn't matter what caused it. You just look at any story you can take and you throw it out there. I guarantee you, there will be more coverage of this shooting than there was of the Q Club shooting, even though that was a far-right fascist who shot up and killed queer people at a club, explicitly and unambiguously motivated by far-right ideology. But no, there will be more coverage of this than that, because the far-right will be talking about this forever. You'll be hearing about this year, next year, the year after that. You know, if this was such a frequent...
It's so crazy to me, and I totally disagree with him. Obviously, I think he's completely wrong, and I'm sure that most people watching this video also think that Vaush is wrong here. But it's crazy to me how people on Vaush's side and our side think pretty much the same way about things. You know, whenever we see stuff like this, we think immediately, oh, this is going to get zero coverage. And it does. It does get zero coverage when it comes to the mainstream media. Like, even shows like, I don't know, like the stupid shows like The View and The Talk and all of those shows, they're not going to talk about this. And if they do, they're going to try to justify. I saw a clip of one of them trying to justify it. I think it was Sunny Hostin, however you say her dumbass name. She was trying to justify it, man. But it's just, it is insane to me how people on Vaush's side think the same way as us. Like, it does make me realize that a lot of people who are so bought into these ideologies, they are two sides of the same coin. Even if they're on completely different political sides, when you're so bought into an ideology, you are on a different side of the same coin as these the weirdos on the left. Because they also think whenever something happens like this, it's going to be talked about nonstop by mainstream media, by people on social media. And when people like me, and probably people like you who are seeing this video right now, you're probably thinking the opposite. You're probably like, oh, this is a person who was a transgender. This is probably going to get zero coverage from mainstream media. This is going to die out in a couple of days. And you're most likely right. I would 100% agree with you and disagree with Vaush here. But it is, you know, it's interesting to see how everybody is really just two sides of the same coin.
What event? I bet they'd have more examples to pull from. That's why you keep seeing the in the conservative thumbnails, that one crying lady who was upset that Donald Trump won back in 2016. You've been seeing that lady for like 7 years now, because I mean that's all they have. Those are the examples they pull from. Scarce.
It's just a funny picture, man. Like, it's not all that people have. It's just a funny picture.
As they are. I found the tweet from Matt Walsh. I came to the conclusion years ago that the trans movement is the greatest evil our country faces. I only become more and more sure of this fact with each passing day, and more determined to oppose it until my last breath. Did he say this when it was cisgender people shooting, white people shooting, conservative shooting, men shootings?
No, because when normal people do shootings, their normal peopleness, their cisness or their race, no matter what the race is, it's a normal person thing to have. It's not a sign of mental illness to be straight or to be cis, as these people, these weirdos call it, or to be white, black, Asian. Their race has no part in it. Unless it's some sort of racially motivated shooting, which I don't know how often that even happens. But what we're saying with the trans stuff, with the trans person doing the shooting, is being transgender is a direct sign of a mental illness. That's what we're saying. Being white, being cis, being black, being Asian, being male or female, it's not a sign of mental illness. Being transgender is a direct sign of mental illness. So are we trying to eradicate mental illness from the world? I would think that if you're a good person with a good heart, you would probably want to eradicate mental illness out there. Are we trying to, would we choose to eradicate schizophrenics if we could? Or would we choose to eradicate dementia if we could choose to? Yes, I think Vaush would as well. If we could choose to eradicate all mental illness in the world, would we choose to? The answer is yes. All good people would. So why would we not choose to eradicate all transgenderism? And I'm not saying that every single person who's transgender out there needs to be eradicated. Before you twist my words, that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say, if I could take the mental illness away from those people and make them no longer transgender, I would. And being transgender and committing a shooting, especially when the crime does seem like it is ideologically driven, is a direct sign of mental illness and most likely the cause of the shooting.
Straight people shooting? No. And we know why. In this media environment, I think we can interpret this behavior from the far right as a reaffirmation of their intent to eradicate trans people as a social group. And I fully support their right to exercise their Second Amendment privileges to own firearms in case they are ever attacked and to defend themselves within the grounds of the law. Anybody who disagrees with that is literally giving the exact same justification Hitler gave to disarm the Jews. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that.
Every single point always goes back to the same person, man. It's always Hitler.
Anybody who plays along with that rhetoric, the idea, oh, well, by advocating self-defense, you're actually responsible for every bad thing a member of a group does. No, apparently the shooter had a manifesto. I don't think it's released yet, and I don't know what it says. It could be anything from a deranged scrawl of personal misgivings to that particular school. It could be nonsense. It could be some kind of political screed. I don't know. I'm sure it'll be deranged. Normal people don't shoot up schools and kill children. So whatever it
Normal people also aren't transgender. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about what Vaush had to say, Vaush's little meltdown about Matt Walsh, and what other people like Ben Shapiro, the Daily Wire. Of course, like I said, the Daily Wire is being blamed for the entire thing on Twitter. Shocker, I know. Let me know what you guys think.